We're back.
Alan, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'll mute myself now.
What's the next topic now? What are we talking about? Where are we going from here? Any commentary from the last segment?
I like this one.
What's that?
The re-elected Oakland County Sheriff is going to start.
Oh, yeah.
The law.
Michael Bouchard.
He's finally going to start following it, Michael.
Yeah.
What does that mean, do you suppose?
This is the guy that used to call the MMMA the Michigan Medical Marijuana Exemption Act. So I don't. He's not our friend at all.
Never has been.
No. No.
So Bouchard's held this office for 2 decades, selected to a 6th term, begging the question of why is there not a term limit for sheriffs? Winning 54% of the vote. We did have on the sheriff opponent, Jamie. What was his name? The Democrat who was...
Spiel?
Who? Oakland County?
Oh, Vincent Gregory?
Vincent Gregory. He was on Planet Creatures. And law enforcement of Bouchard has been known for cracking down on marijuana. So says this article in the Metro Times as I'm reading from it. Including a raid in Oakland County's first dispensary where officers arrested more than 24 people about a decade ago. I have very, very tortured memories of that. I was involved in that case back then, and it was a nightmare.
It's horrible.
I remember some of the atrocities that, not just how it impacted the people involved, but the manner in which they went about this lie. I remember
they had the blessing of the city. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Blessing of the city. How could that ever be?
The mayor was on the front page of the paper in the marijuana shop, looking at marijuana.
Mayor Craig Covey. Yep. Who also ran against Sheriff Bouchard.
Yeah, here you go. In 2016, Bouchard's opponent, former Mayor Craig Covey, accused Bouchard of spending too much of taxpayer money on cracking down on pot. His position on the subject is bordering on hysterical, Covey previously told Metro Times. Bouchard is stuck in the 70s, following the Nixon model on drug policy. He's using our research to go after marijuana issues rather than go after heroin. In 2014-15, cannabis accounted for almost 30% of narcotics enforcement teams' drug arrests, and that number has been closer to 50% in some years since the passage of the medical marijuana law in 2008. Imagine that. With recreational marijuana legalized in Michigan in 2018, it seemed likely that voters might choose a county sheriff whose attitudes and way have changed with the times. Bouchard's 2020 opponent, Vincent Gregory, a retired Wayne County sheriff, detective and former state senator, ran on a more liberal view on cannabis. And the cannabis industry's scorecard gave Gregory an A for pledging to minimize racial disparities in cannabis-related law enforcement and being supportive of state-licensed cannabis businesses. Bouchard apparently didn't even bother to respond to the survey. But it's not like Bouchard is turning over a new leaf. Bouchard maintains that he isn't anti-pot, he's just pro-law. And the law around marijuana in Michigan was murky for years.
Very murky. Very murky.
Begging the question, if it's so murky, why were you arresting people?
Yeah.
Is it fair that people get arrested for murky laws?
It really wasn't that murky.
No.
It was pretty clear to me.
Yeah.
I've read
to
it
most
several
people.
times.
To most people.
It's pretty clear. It's
yeah.
And I'm former law enforcement, Jim. And,
Yeah.
But the current law enforcement seems to think it's murky.
Yeah.
Same with prosecutors.
Well, I think the bend that he would say, and I'm not certainly he doesn't need me to argue it, but just for purposes of what his point was, I think it says dispensaries were not legal. He says, despite local approval, maybe even they were operating in different parts of the state, and that did not make them legal. We had opinions from the state under then Governor Granholm, the county prosecutor, and from the Attorney General that all said dispensaries were not legal. Wow, he had a trifecta there.
Jenny from the block. Even.
But now that the matter has been settled, Bouchard said the county has not pursued any cases involving marijuana. We follow the law to the letter, he says.
Yeah.
So I don't anticipate crackdowns on marijuana unless the law specifically speaks to that. So this may be true. Maybe true. There's fewer marijuana. I know we've got. I was in Zoom call today on a marijuana case that goes back
Oakland
to
County Sheriff.
Yep.
So weird.
Yep.
Tooth and nail, buddy.
So weird.
Section 8 coming up.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah. Who'd ever thought we'd be talking about Section 4 and Section 8
Not our
defense
friend.
at this point in time?
Not our
Did
friend.
you ever think that, Jamie?
The only
We have 2 cases right now. We are geared and prepped.
We got
up
more
to
than
go
2, unfortunately.
Section 4 and Section 8.
we got what the good news is that even though Bouchard is elected, and it sounds like Gregory, and I agree, Gregory's he's talking about reform. I mean, I don't know that Bouchard is talking about reform.
He
I don't
is
think
not.
But-
I don't think Burchard's a reformist.
But more, and I look at here. There's an unequivocal potential dilemma, which is that the sheriff and the prosecutor, the new prosecutor, Karen McDonald, won on a platform of reform, and there has to be a working relationship between the two of them.
Well, I mean, we all know that at the end of the day, the prosecutor strategically holds the advantage.
Oh, absolutely.
What?
The
You think so?
Absolutely.
They're supposed to.
They absolutely, and it's yeah, I
They're
understand
supposed
that.
to. But do you understand if a sheriff shows up with, a grow taken down and investigative reports and people sitting in custody for warrants to be issued, and they don't issue those warrants, that
More of that should happen.
well,
Oh,
it
then
doesn't
then
happen.
the sheriff won't do it again.
The
Right.
point, well, it doesn't happen.
Well,
It
that's the
doesn't-
point. But
if
that's
there-
what she can do, and that will prove it. She's either full of shit or she's not.
But my point is that the discerning between by making independent the investigators and the police department and their decisions to arrest and gather evidence does not always, and should it not always, make for the equivalent of charges being issued. Yet that rarely doesn't happen, where the submission of a request for charges gets rejected, especially with marijuana cases, and that may be something that needs to be figured out. I would suggest that whatever happened during this era of Bouchard, during the MMA, was the opposite of how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
That if Jessica Cooper had authority, I don't know that she ever used it. Maybe she approved of all of this, but I don't know that it was driven by her.
Of
I don't-
course she. No, of course.
I don't think that any of these raids happened because she was out and in the community getting tips and telling them where to go.
No,
and work
but she
with- Of course not.
wasn't putting a stop to it either.
No, what was happening is they were bringing them cases, and she was issuing the warrants and told them to do so. But
And I mean, we can talk about cases like Stephen Maria Green's case, where she just would not. And it's ridiculous.
Bob Redden. How about the
yeah,
Bob
there's
Redden
another
case?
great one.
I mean, they go on and on. There's so many. We've had so many out there. You can think of a bunch of people. And they made all the case law, all the bad case law. He says it's so clear, the law's not murky. Well, they were arresting people when there was no case, and it was really about these other nuances. I mean, it started with the whole. I mean, I don't know. Who cares? It's not even worth talking about. But it is an interesting dynamic. I hope that the campaign promises of the prosecutor, Karen McDonald, are upheld. I know that she does believe in. I'd like to believe she.
I think she's gonna.
much more.
I think we're gonna be pleasantly surprised about.
I think so. She seems like she's got a pretty good
Yeah,
backbone.
her and Lucido both. I'm very happy
Yeah.
about how those two elections shaped up. So I think, and they were actually both on Fox 2 the other day, and it looks like the two of them are willing to work together regionally and
I would
hopefully
think so. I could see
maybe
that.
collaborate on some reform. I know that's a passion for both of them. So
They both seem to have a good sense of reasonableness about them.
yeah.